What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Dead on Dave, and I've got a special show for you right now. It is Friday, and that means it's top 5 time. And we've already done a lot today, but I think this is going to be a lot of fun. A lot of people are going to be pissed off. It's going to create some conversations. So remember, anything you have to say, please make sure you put it down in the comment section. Yes, you just caught me doing a hair shake trying to fix the hair. I should have wore a beanie. Oh, well. Make sure you comment on anything that you guys want to talk about. I will, as long as you don't get retarded with like, oh, you're just fat and stupid. I'll get in a debate with you on any of this stuff. I know how passionate some people could be when it comes to lists and stuff, but this is just my opinion on the top 5 greatest tag teams of all time. And believe me, I did not take this lightly. This was a very difficult thing for me to do. I mean, not difficult, but you know what I mean. I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about. It wasn't the easiest thing, just writing down some names. I'm writing down names. Next thing I know, I got 15 friggin' tag teams here. I'm like, oh, Jesus, what am I? Oh, God. So I copped out a little bit, and you'll see why. But first thing I wanted to talk about is the guys that are not on the list. And there's 5 teams that did not make the list in the top 5. And they were hard to cut. Let's start with the outsiders. I cut the outsiders. They did not make the top 5. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, mainly just because they didn't wrestle enough. They were dominant. They kicked ass, but the NWO was always right there making sure they were winning. I mean, so little of what they did was completely on their own. And basically the feud that they're most known for is the Steiner Brothers feud. You know, I would have liked to have seen more with Harlem Heat, more with a couple of the other tag teams in the division at the time. And while there was some, the feuds weren't there to warrant them being any higher than in the top 10, top 15. Which, considering how many times they were apart because of disciplinary reasons or alcohol reasons or a myriad of other reasons, I think it's pretty impressive that they're even this high on the list. So I know there's a lot of outsider love and just as much as a hell of a lot of Kevin Nash hate. So I think it'll balance itself out, and I think people understand why I left them out. The Minnesota Wrecking Crew, the original Minnesota Wrecking Crew, even before Ole and Arn, it was always a great team, and they were actually related. And then, later on, the one that people, Ole and Arn is probably what people remember the most, because most high profile. They become members of the original Four Horsemen. Ole and Arn, my boys, man, I absolutely love that tag team. And just the entire legacy, going back to 1965 with the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, they were always just ass kickers, man. They were just blue-collar guys that would just beat the hell out of you. It wasn't always the prettiest thing in the world, but God, they fucking dominant. Just a very dominant team. So it was hard not having them in there. The New Age Outlaws did not make the list, and I know for some people that's going to be a kick in the nutsack. One of the most important tag teams of the early Attitude Era. But DX became more of an important thing than the Outlaws themselves. And if anything, the Outlaws were kind of on the outside looking in of the big tag team boom that happened at that time with some of the other guys that I'm going to talk about later. So as great as the Outlaws are and were and everything, and I love the fact that they're back in the WWE in different capacities, I couldn't put them in the top 5. It was not an easy thing to do. I actually had them in on 2 separate occasions and knocked them back out. So the Hart Foundation. The Hart Foundation, which is probably, because is there anybody out there who's more into... Their fans are so... you say anything bad about the Harts, and it's just like, oh my God, you might as well just get a gun. But back in Saskatchewan, we don't care about being on top 5 lists up in Canada. You know, it's okay. Me and my brother Owen, we were a good team, but it was Jim. Jim was my man. It's okay. Brett and Jim were a damn good tag team. I didn't like them. I think that's my biggest thing is putting them any higher. It's just I respect everything Bret Hart has done in the business. I respect it. I respect the Hart Foundation. I respect that dynasty. I respect it. My God, do I respect it. I just don't like them. I really don't. I never have. I never found them all that entertaining. I understand why others find them entertaining. I get that. They weren't for me. I wish I had a better reasoning, but what do you want me to do? Try to slam their technical ability? Can't. Want me to try to slam some of the darker stuff that they did later on with DX and everything, which basically catapulted us into the Attitude Era? I can't. I can't slam any real aspect of their run. Other than the fact that they're only a 2-time tag team champion. Other than that, I can't really hit them with too many things. It's just a great team. They just weren't for me. And the last team on did not quite make the list is Fabulous Freebirds. And I was going to put them in a category with another two teams I'm going to talk about in a moment that are going to ignite a lot of hate, but I don't care. Because I feel that the Freebirds were a very big part of the reason why another team that did make the list became so damn big. But when I looked at the two teams, I felt it wasn't an even comparison because with the Freebirds, it was all show. It was all show and very little go. Nobody's ever going to claim that Michael P.S. Hayes is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. But they were flashy, and the other guys could all go. The team could wrestle a little bit, but they weren't. Damn it. It's so hard because I can't call them bad wrestlers, but I'm not gonna say that they're not. They weren't the Von Erichs, okay? They weren't the fucking Von Erichs, plain and fucking simple. And now I'm gonna get into the Von Erichs in a moment, but they weren't. They weren't the fucking Von Erichs. They were very entertaining. They were a lot of fun, but top 5 is a very, very hard category to pare down, so they didn't make the list. Next, I want to talk about two teams that are probably on almost everybody's top 5 list, and they probably should be squeezed in here. However, they're not, and it's because both of these teams, I feel, would not be anywhere near as great had it not been for each other. And that's why I was going to put the Von Erichs and the Fabulous Freebirds into the same category, but I decided that it wasn't as fair. It didn't make as much sense as these next two, and of course I'm talking about Edge and Christian and the Hardys. Now, Edge and Christian, I think, is a much harder snub than the Hardy Boys. But the way I look at it is if you take either of those teams out of the equation with each other, take them out of the WWE altogether, does the other tag team get propelled to the heights in which they would have? Maybe not necessarily. I mean, could either of their rivalries with the Dudleys have done the same thing? Maybe, but I'm not too sure about that. I'm just not super, super positive on that. And for that reason, I kept them out of the top 5. And when you see the 5 teams that I have in there, you tell me who I knock out to put Edge and Christian or the Hardys in. Now, look, I think it's a much easier case to make for Edge and Christian. They got so many tag team title reigns. The fact that they're both gonna, at the end of the day, they're both gonna end up be Hall of Famers, and they'll probably go in as a tag team as well. So they're probably both gonna be 2-time Hall of Famers when it's all said and done with it. But it was a really tough decision. But I feel like they are in the top 5. But just they would have to go in together. And maybe and I actually did have them at one point where I was going to have them together as one slot and knock out my top 5 team, but I decided that was just a little bit of that was bullshit on my part. So I decided to make a separate category because I really feel these two teams wouldn't have been as great without each other. Okay, so there it is. I think that's the most controversial part of this entire episode here, because now let's get into the fun stuff for a moment. Let's talk about the top 5. And since I already brought them up, let's go ahead and start with number 5. That is the Von Erichs. Now, we're talking about a team through different incantation, different iterations. No, I'm still using the wrong word. Through different combinations of family members, 24 NWA tag team titles. What are you gonna say to that? What do you say to something like that? Look at this family. They were born to be wrestlers. Now, the interesting thing about the Von Erichs that I love to talk about so often is when I'm talking to friends is just a terrible history of these guys. I feel terrible for this family. Let's talk about the deaths real quick, shall we? My God. Fritz, he lived to 68, but 5 of his 6 sons all died well before him, 3 of them by suicide. Jack died at the age of 6 in 1984. David Von Erich died in Japan. He had intestinal problems. Michael, Chris, and Carrie all committed suicide in 87, 91, and 93. Mike overdosed. Chris shot himself in the head. And Carrie shot himself in the chest. I mean, like, it's crazy. And it all leaves Kevin, the sole survivor. I'm the sole survivor! Woo, the black heart! No, I'm kidding. He's the sole survivor of the original family, Fritz, Jack, and Doris. It's very crazy. And, of course, there is some third generation Von Erichs running around out there. Kevin's sons, Marshall and Ross, and Carrie's daughter, Lacey, who has been in the business for a while, and she left in 2010. She had several years in, and then she left in 2010. I'd love to see Lacey Von Erich come back. I feel like it's not wrestling without the Von Erichs, and that's why they made this list. You don't have wrestling without the Von Erichs. You just don't have them. They're one of the top 3 families in wrestling history. I mean, people can talk about the Poffos and all that stuff, and even the Hennings, but I mean, you look at the Von Erichs, the Armstrongs, yes, the Armstrongs, and the Harts. And those are your 3. Those are your founding members. Those are your families. That's it. And it's just the devastation that has been brought upon the Von Erichs is amazing, and yet they accomplish so much between the different combination of wrestlers. It's incredible. It really is. It's one of the most incredible things ever, and it's very, very cool. So Von Erichs, number 5. Number 4. Okay. This is where people might get a little angry with me, but I don't really care. Number 4, I got the Steiner Brothers, man. I absolutely loved this team. Loved them. They were badasses, man. They were just badasses. They kicked ass. They were athletic. They had 2 contrasting styles, but they complemented each other so much. As much as the power game was all about Scott was just a power game type of guy. He was a suplex machine, and he did Frankensteiner. I mean, he did Hurricanranas and all kinds of crazy shit that he was able to do. The Steiner recliner later on and all that stuff. But Rick was the heart of this team. Rick was the heart and soul of this team. And the older brother and the more badass of the 2, if you ask me, he was insane. They were colorful. They were just a great team. Multiple time champions through different eras. And I think that's important when you talk about this list is these teams all really stood the test of time. Now, more some than others, but all 5 of these teams on this list have gapped the generations. They've been around and they stayed relevant for a very long time. Maybe of this list of the 5 teams that are on it, the Steiners least of them, but still, I think what they were able to accomplish together and the fact that Rick became nothing. Now, granted, he was a lot older when the split finally happened, so I'm sure that wasn't ever in the cards for him to go off and be a huge singles competitor. But even Scott's singles career, when he left, after he left the Steiner Brothers, it's just like I never cared about Scott Steiner. Yeah, he's a big bad booty daddy, whatever. Yeah, he was great at flubbing lines and looking like a freak of nature, but is Scott Steiner on his own a Hall of Famer? No, he's not. He's not. Not even close. Okay, number 3. Let's get on with it. Let's get out of the Steiner brother era. Let's talk about a team that kind of took their place and ran from it. It ran with the ball. One of the most successful tag teams of all time, 10-time tag team champions, and all that's great. All that is fantastic. I might get in trouble for playing this clip. I don't care, because the reason why they're on this list is because they gave me the greatest moment in wrestling history. One of my favorite things ever. Every time I need a laugh, I watch it. So let's watch it now, shall we?
What's going to happen in this 4-quarter match?
Let me tell you something, Gino. Can you out here talking about a clique? The only clique you need to know about is the Harlem Heat.
Everything going well.
See, because what you're dealing with here is the brotherhood. It's non-stop from this point on in WCW. We take what we want, and after we take Lex Luger and the Giant, we want the gold sucker. Hulk Hogan, we coming for you, nigga.
Oh, yeah.
I should point out for the record, Stevie Ray, look at this. Take a look. We're talking about the...
For you, nigga. Giant, we want the gold sucker. Hulk Hogan, we coming for you, nigga. We want the gold sucker. Hulk Hogan, we coming for you, nigga.
I should point out for the record, Stevie Ray, look at this. Take a look. We're talking
look
about
at that. Oh, my God.
And what about the choke slam of the Giant? These are the things you're going to have to deal with tonight.
What about the
Does it get any better? Really. Does it get any better than that? Stevie Ray over there just no-selling the whole thing. Sherry just trying to comfort her man there. Book completely coming to fucking pieces. It's such a great moment. It's so funny. And aside from that, Harlem Heat is just their incredible team. And they were a good team for a long time, But when they got Sherry, that changed things. Sherry changed it. This is they had a whole bunch of different incarnations of themselves. They were the Huffman Brothers, because that's their original names. They were the Ebony Experience for a while. How would that have gone if they would have stayed that? And then Harlem Heat. And it's hard to talk about a tag team division without talking about the Harlem Heat. This is a great team. They were able to do things that a lot of other teams weren't. And the fact that they were a black tag team was also very revolutionary in mainstream wrestling. You just didn't, they were really the only ones. And not only that, you had Stevie Ray, who would just pancake your ass at any time. He was just a big bully of a guy. And then the workhorse of the group, Booker T, man. People forget how good he was. And then all the success he had later on, starting with the television title run, they knew that he was going to be a big singles competitor because just the talent that he had, just so much fucking ability. That, you know what, right there, Booker T is a prime example of it. Sometimes racism, if there is any in the wrestling world, which I'm sure there is some, can't hold certain guys down. Book was so good, even with the foot and mouth syndrome that he has, because let's face it, Booker T says some stupid shit sometimes. Didn't matter. He's that good that he's constantly and consistently gotten chance after chance to carry the ball. multiple time world champion on his own, but it started with Harlem Heat because they dominated tag team divisions all over the world and especially in WCW. 10-time tag team champions, amazing team, lots of fun, so that's why they were number 3. Number 2, let the controversy begin. This is where it got hard for me. And then the more I thought about it, I realized it was not a hard debate at all. And I'll tell you why. Number 2, Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal. Chicago boys, just like me, one of my absolute favorite teams of all time. Maybe my personal favorite. In fact, I can tell you, this is my personal favorite tag team of all time. But I can't say, for me personally, they're the greatest tag team of all time, if that makes any sense. If this was just my favorite tag teams, then they would definitely be number 1. But I'm not that type of guy. I gotta be fair, and I'm talking greatest tag teams of all time. And as much as I want to put them there, and I think you can make the case easily for them because of how long they won every tag team title they could during their lifetimes. Very fucking simple. They were hard hitting. They were so good that WWE, after losing them, just said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's try to create our own. And they created Demolition because there needed to be a Road Warriors that goddamn bad. They had many different. God, I still can't use the word that I want to use. There's so many different variations of this team throughout the years. What are you gonna say as a knock against the Road Warriors? Maybe they weren't the easiest guys to deal with in the back. Maybe they had issues with the booze, like some other teams that I've talked about. But it is what it is. This is a team that did it all. Did it all and didn't ever apologize. Absolute great team. One of my favorites. Like I said, they are my favorites. But they're not number 1. There's only one number 1. And anybody out there who's really looking at wrestling objectively, and this is where just being objective and not falling into being completely subjective and biased, and you're just trying to look at it from a sheer greatest of all time standpoint, there's only one team. And you guys have probably guessed it by now. They are the Dudley Boys. Just come on. They've won every. They're the only tag team in history to have won the WWE, WCW, TNA, ECW, and IWGP tag team titles. I mean, they've done it all. 20, 30, 35 some odd fucking tag team title reigns. They've spanned forever. They've done it all. Yes, they are known for their hardcore style. Yes, they went through tables. Yes, they were crazy and colorful and stuff. But the guys could fight too. They could just wrestle. They knew how to control a match. They knew how to dictate tempo. This was a great team because of everything that they were able to elicit. And people might say, oh, well, you chunked Edge and Christian together. Why not the Dudleys? Well, it's real simple. The Dudleys did things before and after that feud that elevates them far beyond Edge and Christian and the Hardys. Okay? As great as the Hardys are and as great as Edge and Christian are, they're not in that same league as the Dudley Boys. They're just not, and you know it. This team is amazing. They're still going. They're 3D'ing somebody right now. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone's getting the tables. I guarantee it. They don't stop. They don't stop. And there's a good possibility, a very good possibility, we're going to see them one more time in the WWE at some point. Because they've been kind of talking about it. And I can see us getting something, maybe on an old school Raw or something. We will see the Dudleys drop the 3D on somebody one more time. Personally, I was never a huge Dudley Boy guy because I was in the Edge and Christian group. I was in the Hardys group. I didn't care for the Dudleys. I wasn't a huge ECW guy when I was a kid. I mean, I liked ECW, but I didn't love ECW. And probably because by the time I really started getting into ECW and watching them, a lot of their big guys, the wrestlers that I love so much, like Malenko, Benoit, Jericho, Guerrero, they've gone on. They moved on. They're in WCW at this point, so I'm a WCW guy. Never even really knowing how important all these guys were to ECW. I missed all that. I just saw this is just a train wreck. It's car wrecks. And Dudley Boys not only were able to stay in that and cause plenty of carnage, but rise through that and rise above it. When so many other teams and wrestlers in that organization simply died with it. I don't see any other way, any other explanation to give you. If you're not convinced that the Dudleys are the greatest tag team of all time, there's nothing I'm going to be able to say to convince you otherwise. There are plenty of other great teams I wanted to talk about. The Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, the Rockers. There's all kinds of great teams out there. And there are plenty of one-off teams like the Rock and Sock Connection, gimmicky teams like that. There's plenty of teams to talk about that were really good together. Hell, Benoit and Malenko were a great tag team, There's plenty of teams like that. Plenty of teams that you could talk about that you could put in there as the greatest of all time, or at least in the conversation. But when you look at the list, it's just kind of hard to take anyone out. So, again, Von Erichs at 5, Steiner Brothers at 4, Harlem Heat at 3, Legion of Doom at 2, and Dudley Boys number 1 overall. And I'll defend that as much as I can. So, bring me the comments. Let's talk about it. Tell me what you guys think. Hope you all enjoyed this one. This my Friday top 5. It's for you guys. This is just me putting myself out there because, Lord, you guys know what I'm talking about. You know why there's apprehension. Because are there any worse critics in the world than fucking wrestling fanboys, than all you motherfuckers on your keyboards? Is there anything worse? I don't think so. We're terrible human beings. We rip people to fucking shreds. We go personal, we go private, we don't care. So that's why there's the apprehension here. And that's why I put a lot of thought into this. And I hope that you guys like it, you dig it, and at least you're entertained. Whether it infuriated you or motivated you to create your own, I don't give a shit. So that's going to conclude all my videos. I'm done making videos today. I've made a bunch. Hope you guys enjoy them all. Make sure you check out everything else that's gone through today. I did a really cool NXT review earlier. And, of course, I did an unboxing video, my arcade block for December with my daughter. That's up as well. It's a great video. So if there's anything else you guys need or want to see or whatever, let me know. If you want to come on the show, let me know. Because I can't go live. I tried going live again. Some of you might have saw the live test show. It didn't work. So if you want to come on the show and you want to talk, I'll give you a few minutes to spout off whatever you want to talk about. Just get in touch with me. There's all kinds of ways through Twitter, right here, Google+, Facebook, This Guy's Take On It, Facebook.com / This Guy's Take On It. Any of those mediums, you can get a hold of me. So don't hesitate. Let me know what's going on. If you want to come on, I will. And as long as you're not an asshole, I don't give a shit. I'll let you on. And we'll talk. So, okay. Thank you guys for joining me once again right here on Dead on Dave Productions. I will see you soon. Make sure you're checking out everybody else in the network, in the community. Joe Cronin Show, Shot from the Point Productions, Dave Rose, The Dark Show. I believe it's tonight, I think. Make sure you're checking all that stuff out. Great stuff going on. Everybody in the community is creating. Jeff Huffman, Grand Slam 87. Don't forget about him. Video games and health stuff. Check that out. Everybody's doing great things. Check everybody out. Support. Be a part of the community. Talk to you guys later. I'm out. Join me tomorrow, probably with Jeff Huffman, I assume, for the SmackDown review. So that'll be fun. I'm out of here. Peace.